So, what happened to the Amber Room? It's a simple question, but the answer isn't simple at all. Most people fall into two camps. One group says the Nazis stole it and hid it and it's still out there somewhere waiting to be found. The other group says it was destroyed, burned to ash in the final, chaotic days of World War II. The truth is probably somewhere in that fog of war. It's a story about art, power, greed, and destruction. Let's start at the beginning. The Amber Room wasn't originally Russian. It was Prussian. The idea came from a king, Frederick I of Prussia, back in the early 1700s. He wanted something spectacular for his palace in Berlin, something no one had ever seen before. He settled on a room made of amber. Now, amber isn't a stone like marble or a metal like gold. It's fossilized tree resin. It's warm to the touch. It's light. And when sunlight hits it, it glows. It feels alive. For centuries, people thought it had magical or medicinal properties. It was called Gold of the North. To make an entire room from it was an incredibly ambitious idea. It would take tons of the highest quality amber, skilled craftsmen, and a whole lot of money. The man in charge of the design was a German sculptor named Andreas Schluter. The actual work was done by a Danish amber craftsman, Gottfried Wolfram. They didn't just slap amber panels on a wall. It was a work of art. The panels were carved with intricate designs, figures, and royal symbols. They were backed with gold leaf to make them shine even brighter. There were mirrors to reflect the light and create an illusion of infinite space. It was a masterpiece of Baroque art, a room that literally glowed from within. But the project had problems, it was expensive, it took a long time, and Frederick I died before it was fully installed in his palace. His son, Frederick William I, was a very different kind of king. He was a practical military man known as the Soldier King. He didn't care much for lavish art projects. He saw the half-finished amber room panels sitting in storage and thought they were a waste of space and money. Around that time, Russia was a rising power. Its leader was Tsar Peter the Great. Peter was building a new modern Russia. He was a giant of a man full of energy and ambition. He visited Prussia and saw the amber panels. He loved them. He wanted them. In Frederick William, I saw an opportunity. He needed a strong ally against his enemy, Sweden, because Russia was the perfect partner. So, in 1716, he made a deal. He would give the amber room panels to Peter the Great as a diplomatic gift. In exchange, Peter gave him a number of tall soldiers for his personal guard, the Potsdam Giants. It sounds like a strange trade, but it was a brilliant political move. It sealed the Prussian-Russian alliance. The Amber Room became a symbol of their friendship. The panels were carefully packed into crates and sent on the long journey to St. Petersburg. Peter was thrilled. He installed them in his winter palace, but the room was never quite right. The panels were designed for a different space. For years, the room was a magnificent but slightly awkward part of the Russian court. Decades later, Peter's daughter, Empress Elizabeth, decided to move it. She was building a spectacular summer residence outside St. Petersburg, a place called Tsarskoye Selo, or Tsar's Village. The heart of this complex was the Catherine Palace. Elizabeth wanted the Amber Room to be the jewel of her new palace. The problem was, the room she chose was much bigger than the original Prussian design. The panels alone wouldn't cover the walls, so she hired an Italian architect, Bartolomeo Rastrelli, to solve the problem. Rastrelli was a genius. He took the original Prussian panels and expanded on their design. He added huge, gilded wooden carvings between the panels. He put in massive mirrors that reached from the floor to the ceiling. He commissioned new amber mosaics from craftsmen in Germany to fill the gaps, making sure they matched the old style. The result was something even grander than the original vision. It was over 55 square meters and used more than 6 tons of amber. It wasn't just a room anymore, it was an immersive experience. When the candles were lit in the evening, the whole space seemed to burn with a soft, golden fire. It was breathtaking. The Russians called it the 8th wonder of the world. For nearly 200 years, the Amber Room was the backdrop for imperial life. It saw parties, formal receptions, and quiet moments of the royal family. It survived palace coups and assassinations. When the Russian Revolution came in 1917, the Bolsheviks overthrew the Tsar. The Catherine Palace, once a private royal home, was turned into a public museum. The Amber Room was no longer a symbol of imperial power, it was now a treasure of the Soviet people. The tourists from all over the world came to see it. It was cared for by dedicated curators who understood its history and its fragility. Then came 1941. Hitler invaded the Soviet Union. The German army moved with terrifying speed. Kaliningrad, the city now known as St. Petersburg, was a primary target. The Catherine Palace at Tsarskoye Selo was directly in the path of the advancing German forces. The museum staff in the palace knew they were in trouble. They began a frantic effort to evacuate the art. They packed up paintings, statues, and furniture. They worked day and night, sending trainloads of treasures east, away from the front lines. But when they got to the Amber Room, they faced a serious problem. They tried to dismantle the panels. But 2 centuries of Russian winters and summers had taken their toll. The amber had become dry and brittle. When they tried to pry the panels from the walls, the amber started to crack and crumble. They realized that trying to remove it would likely destroy it, so they made a desperate decision. They decided to hide it in plain sight. The curators covered the magnificent amber walls with a layer of cotton padding. Over that, they put up simple plain wallpaper. Their hope was that the German soldiers would storm in, see a boring, empty room, and move on. It was a naive plan, born of desperation. The Germans arrived in September 1941. They were not just a random group of soldiers, they were part of a special unit tasked with looting art. The Nazis had detailed lists of the most important cultural treasures in Europe. The Amber Room was at the very top of their list for Russia. They considered it a German creation stolen by the Russians, and they were there to take it back. They walked into the Catherine Palace and went straight to the right room. The wallpaper disguise fooled no one. They tore it down, revealing the glowing amber underneath. Within 36 hours, German soldiers, under the supervision of art experts, had carefully dismantled the entire room. They packed the panels, carvings, and mirrors into 27 large wooden crates. They loaded the crates onto trucks and shipped them west. The destination was a city called Königsberg. At the time, it was the capital of East Prussia, a German territory. Today, it's a Russian city called Kaliningrad. Königsberg was a symbolic choice. It was the old heartland of Prussia, the kingdom that had created the Amber Room in the first place. The Nazis saw this as a homecoming. The crates arrived at Königsberg Castle. The director of the castle's art museum, a man named Alfred Rohde, was an amber expert. He was put in charge of the treasure. He unpacked some of the panels and put them on display in one of the castle's halls. This is the last time the Amber Room was seen in public by a large number of people. We know this for a fact. There are photographs of it on display in the castle. Alfred Rohde wrote articles about it for German magazines. He was very proud to have it. The room stayed there for about 2 years, but by late 1943, the tide of the war was turning. The German army was in retreat on the Eastern Front. Allied bombers were starting to hit cities deep inside Germany. Rohde and other officials grew concerned about the safety of the Amber Room. They carefully packed it back into its 27 crates and moved it to the castle's basement for safekeeping. And this is where the mystery really begins. What happened in Königsberg between late 1944 and the spring of 1945 is the key to the entire puzzle. The first major event was a series of massive air raids. In August 1944, the British Royal Air Force bombed Königsberg. The city was devastated. The historic center, including the castle, was engulfed in a firestorm. The fires burned for days. The second event was the final Soviet assault. In April 1945, the Red Army encircled the city. What followed was a brutal street-by-street battle. The remaining German soldiers made their last stand in the ruins of the castle. The Soviets pounded it with artillery. More fires broke out. By the time the city fell, Königsberg Castle was a smoldering, gutted shell. After the war, the Soviets immediately began searching for the Amber Room. They formed a special commission. They knew it had been taken to Königsberg. They interrogated German officials, including Alfred Rohde, who had remained in the city. The story Rohde told was simple. The crates containing the Amber Room were in the castle's basement. The fires from the British bombing and the final Soviet assault were incredibly intense. The basement, he said, was full of smoke and flames. Amber, being tree resin, is flammable. It burns. Rohde's conclusion was that the treasure had been completely destroyed in the fires. This is the simplest explanation. It's the one supported by the most direct evidence. It's the destroyed theory. After the rubble of the castle cooled, Soviet investigators sifted through the debris in the basement where the crates were supposedly stored. They didn't find tons of melted amber, but they did find something. They found the charred, twisted remains of the metal hinges and locks from 3 of the 4 Florentine stone mosaics that had been part of the room. They found fragments of burned wood from the crates. This physical evidence strongly suggests that the crates were in fact in the castle during the fires and that they burned. The intense heat could have incinerated the amber panels almost completely, leaving little trace behind. For many historians, this is the end of the story. A tragic loss, a casualty of war. The world's most valuable lost treasure isn't lost, it's gone. But for others, that answer is too simple. It's not satisfying, and there are enough strange details and conflicting accounts to keep other theories alive. This is where we get into the stolen and hidden camp. One of the most popular theories is that the Nazis moved the Amber Room out of Königsberg Castle just before the final destruction. The city was a major port on the Baltic Sea. Even as the Red Army closed in, the Germans were running a massive sea evacuation, trying to get soldiers and civilians out. The theory goes that the 27 crates were put on a ship. One ship often mentioned is the Wilhelm Gustloff. It was a cruise liner turned into a hospital and transport ship. In January 1945, it left a port near Königsberg, packed with thousands of refugees and soldiers. A Soviet submarine torpedoed and sank it. It was one of the greatest maritime disasters in history. Could the Amber Room be in its hold at the bottom of the Baltic Sea? Treasure hunters have spent fortunes searching the wreck and the surrounding area. They've found nothing. It's a romantic idea, but there is no shipping manifest, no document, no credible witness that says the crates were ever loaded onto that ship or any other. Another set of theories involves secret hiding places on land. The Nazis were masters at hiding looted treasure. They used salt mines, remote castles, and underground bunkers all over Germany and occupied territories. The idea is that a high-ranking Nazi official, perhaps Erich Koch, the brutal Gauleiter of East Prussia, ordered the Amber Room to be moved to one of these secret locations. People have searched for it everywhere. There are stories of it being hidden in mines in the Ore Mountains on the border of Germany and the Czech Republic. There are claims it was taken to a castle in Poland. Every few years, a new story emerges. Someone finds an old map. A former soldier gives a deathbed confession. A team of researchers with ground-penetrating radar announces they found a hidden chamber. These stories create a lot of excitement. They get media attention. But so far, every single one of these leads has turned into a dead end. The hidden chambers are always empty. The maps lead nowhere. There's also a more conspiratorial theory. This one suggests that the Red Army actually found the Amber Room when they took Königsberg. Perhaps it was damaged, but not destroyed. The story goes that Soviet authorities, for reasons of their own, decided to keep the discovery a secret. Maybe Stalin wanted it for a private collection. Maybe it was so badly damaged they were embarrassed to show it to the public. Or maybe they wanted to use it as a political bargaining chip during the Cold War. It's an intriguing idea, but again, there is absolutely no hard evidence to support it. Given how important the Amber Room was to Russian national pride, it seems unlikely they would have found it and then hidden it away for decades. So we have these two main branches of thought destroyed in the castle fire or saved and hidden somewhere else. For decades, the debate raged on, based mostly on old documents and speculation. Then, in 1997, something happened that changed the conversation. German police, acting on a tip, raided the office of a lawyer in Bremen. They were looking for a stolen painting. They found the painting, but they also found something else, something far more significant. It was one of the original stone mosaics from the Amber Room, the one depicting feeling and smell. It was one of the 4 mosaics whose burned hinges had been found in the castle ruins. The story of how it got there was murky. The lawyer said he had acquired it on behalf of a client from the son of a German soldier. The soldier had apparently taken it from Königsberg. He had either stolen it from the crates or found it in the chaos. For 50 years, his family had just kept it. This discovery was monumental. First, it proved that not everything was completely incinerated in the fire. At least one major piece of the room had survived. Second, it gave a huge boost to all the treasure hunters and optimists. If this one piece survived, why not more? Why not the entire room? The German government returned the mosaic to Russia. It was a powerful moment of reconciliation, but it also reignited the mystery. Did that soldier take just one piece? Or did he and his comrades loot the crates before the fires, selling off the panels one by one on the black market? This leads to another theory that the Amber Room no longer exists as a room. It was broken up, its panels scattered across the world, hidden in private collections, their owners too afraid to reveal them. Maybe a piece hangs in a secret study in South America, maybe another is in a bank vault in Switzerland. In this version, the treasure still exists, but it will never be whole again. So where does that leave us? Was it stolen or destroyed? The most logical evidence-based conclusion is that the bulk of the Amber Room was destroyed in the fires at Königsberg Castle in 1945. The eyewitness accounts of the fires, the physical evidence of the charred hinges found in the rubble, and the sheer intensity of the fighting all point to destruction. Amber is fragile and flammable. A firestorm in a castle basement seems like a very plausible end to its story. The survival of one stone mosaic doesn't disprove this. It's possible a soldier grabbed it before the worst of the fires, or that it was stored in a slightly different location and was spared the highest temperature. It's an exception that might prove the rule, but logic doesn't always have the last word when it comes to a legend like this. The idea that it's still out there is too compelling to let go of. The story of Nazi gold, secret bunkers, and lost art captures the imagination. The fact that no one knows for sure leaves the door open. That sliver of doubt is all it takes to keep the hunt going. The story has a final chapter, though, or maybe it's a new beginning. Back in 1979, the Soviet government decided that even if the original was gone forever, the memory of it should not be. They approved a monumental project to build a new amber room from scratch. The project was based at the Catherine Palace, in the very same room that had once held the original. It was an incredibly difficult task. There were no detailed architectural plans left. The craftsmen had to work from old black and white photographs and a few color pictures. They had to rediscover the lost techniques of carving and treating amber. They had to find sources for the exact right color and quality of amber. The project took more than 20 years and cost millions of dollars. For a long time, it was funded by the struggling Russian state. After the fall of the Soviet Union, it was a German company that stepped in with a large donation to help finish the work. It was a gesture of goodwill, a way of making amends for the destruction of the past. In 2003, in a ceremony attended by world leaders, the new amber room was officially opened to the public. It is a stunning achievement. The room glows with the same warmth and light as the original. The carvings are intricate, the mosaics are beautiful. It is a faithful and loving recreation. But it's not the original. Everyone who visits knows that, and that knowledge hangs in the air. The new room is a monument not just to the artistry of the past, but also to the loss. It's a beautiful substitute, but the ghost of the original is still there. In the end, the question of whether it was stolen or destroyed might be the wrong question. The real story is about what the Amber Room represents. It was a symbol of peace and alliance between two powerful nations. It became a symbol of imperial luxury and artistic genius. Then it became a symbol of Nazi greed and the cultural destruction of war. And now, its absence and the hunt for it has made it a symbol of enduring mystery. The most likely unromantic truth is that it burned, but the possibility that it didn't, the chance that 27 crates of golden panels are sitting in a dark, forgotten place, is what makes the Amber Room immortal. The treasure itself is probably gone. The story is what we have left. And that story will likely be told forever.